Welcome to episode 16 of my GregTech New Horizons playthrough. This is going to be quite an exciting episode for me, as I'm going to tackle building 2 multi-blocks I've never used before, and these are going to be a massive help in progressing us through the HV age. Let's get going! So I logged on this morning and I'd left the blast furnace running overnight making some stainless steel, which it was still chugging away at, but I did notice that we have finally exhausted our second oil well. So the time has come to get Oilberries set up as our source of oil, and to start with that's going to be quite simple. We just need a fluid extractor and a chemical reactor at LV. There we go, let's go get that set up. So first let's extend the power. Now hopefully the existing Jennies down there will be able to run this, but if not I have some spares, so that's okay. So the first step in the process is we pop our Oilberry in here and it turns into oil. And this, I believe, is the same oil that comes out of the ground, so we could just throw that straight into the process and that would work. But if we throw it into a chemical reactor on program 2... Oh, I'm going to need a pump. Actually, no. I don't need a pump, I just need to fluid output. There we go. We can then turn this into raw oil, which is going to be better for us when it comes to balancing all of the Oilberries for diesel as opposed to just using it to create light oil. So for now we've got about 1,000 buckets of heavy oil left, so that can just run down as well, and we'll just keep running this. So just to recap, our Oilberries will come in here and get turned into BC oil. From there they can get turned into raw oil, and then that raw oil goes into the same process that we always were running for light fuel, which gets mixed up to make diesel. Easy. This will be getting more sophisticated as we get access to better machines, better chemical reactors and better distillation technology, but for now this is perfectly fine. So for the source of Oilberries, I'm just going to pop this drawer here for now, and we'll pop a conveyor here. There it goes, I was worried there for a second, but good. And another one here. Now these LV conveyors actually might not be quite up to the job, but see how it goes. Okay, so for Oilberry production, I'm thinking we get ourselves one of these bad boys. This is the multi-block from GTNH, and it brings us industrialised farming at MV. Just looking through the recipes though, these are hella expensive. There are a great many MV circuits needed, a great many MV machine hulls going to be needed, so we're going to go through tons of aluminium, tons of circuits. I do have quite the stockpile of old style LV circuits, so if need be we can dip into that and start crafting up circuits. And let's just check the aluminium situation. Yeah, this should be alright. One of the things that we're going to need to make for the multi-block is this bricked agricultural casing. Again, lots of aluminium needed, and these chipped hemp herds, which come from these hemp stems, which I've been stockpiling from the farm outside, so that's okay. So I will start getting on pulling all of those resources together. It looks like this fertilised dirt is going to come in handy. Okay, there's my seed beds. Okay, let's try this environmental enhancement unit. Bingo. And it looks like I'm missing some copper nickel and bits and bobs for the farm, which is needed for the industrial farm controller. But that's fine, I can get that. Alright, let's make this crop manager. Alrighty, I think I just need to grab a watering can and set up a couple of recipes for this one to work. Another one of those loot bag rewards coming in unexpectedly clutch. Alright, so not a moment too soon, we've ran through our Oilberries. There's a residual amount there. And we've got a nice backlog of diesel, so we're not going to be running out of fuel anytime soon. But we do need to get these Oilberries set up. It looks like it formed. Alright. So now I just have to figure out how to use the thing. Alright, so looking at this seed bed block, it says it has a capacity of 225. Now I think what I'm going to show you in a second shows that this is for all three of the seed beds that go in this multi-block. So first of all, you need to make sure this is in input mode here, and then we can wang our seeds in, and then we go back to this UI and we see seed capacity reached, and it's got this slot here, and as I say, I think this is for all three seed beds, is 225. So that's surplus. And now I can put it to farm mode. Now obviously it's not got any energy or water yet, but that should be the mode that it needs to be in to produce us with Oilberries. So let's get it hooked up to some power, and it's probably going to need some water as well. Okay, so I've got it all plumbed into diesel supply with minimum spaghetti actually. I'm pretty proud of this. Okay, this bit's a bit snarly, but I rerouted this so they didn't have to cross over, which solved a lot of the problems. And I switched it onto farm mode, and it is saying not enough water, so I'm going to go and get a reservoir very quick. Okay then. Okay, so I think I know what's up with this. If I have a look up here, I built this environmental enhancement unit because I was looking at the multi-block structure in NEI. But if we look at the quest book, it doesn't tell you to build one of those. It tells you to build a wooden frame box. And if you look at the environmental enhancement unit in NEI, it tells you it increases power usage by 50%. So my single MV energy hatch wasn't going to be enough for that. So I suspect this is going to work when I swap this out for the wooden frame box. Right, let's put this back into input mode. And now it's working. Brilliant. So that's 36 oil berries every 7 seconds. That's not bad. Alright, and that's the berries coming out of the machine, going into this drawer. So maybe they'll backlog, we'll see. And yeah, it's a bit of a tangly mess. We'll get rejigged when we switch over so that oil berries are producing both the light fuel and the heavy fuel. So I'm not going to do too much about this mess right now, although I do need to fix this. Wasn't actually doing anything, but it would have bothered me. Okay, so a couple of episodes ago I was whining about how annoying it was to make sulfuric acid. It's actually a lot easier to make in a large chemical reactor, but of course we don't have a large chemical reactor yet. Large chemical reactors also simplify a number of processes, and we're probably going to be making hundreds, if not a couple of thousand, depending on how far this run goes. So getting them sorted out early would be awesome. Now, large chemical reactors need a lot of polytetrafluoroethylene to make. It's also known as Teflon, also known as go to hell. This has a moderately involved chemical process to make it, but the good news is once we make one, we can then bootstrap up using it to make more. So that's going to be my plan next, is let's start making polytetrafluoroethylene and then a large chemical reactor and make much more polytetrafluoroethylene. This all starts off in the quest book here with a HV chemical reactor, and we go through here and down to here. That's the reactor done. Okay, so one of the components we need for PTFE is hydrofluoric acid, which needs hydrogen, which we've got, and fluorine, which we don't yet have. The first step to getting fluorine is processing this black granite dust, which we have loads of thanks to our black stone lilies. I'm just going to use the drawer for this, there's no point doing it piecemeal. So the black granite dust spins down to silicon dioxide, which I'm probably just going to avoid, and biotite. 44 biotite can be electrolyzed down to 4 buckets of fluorine. That's why I grabbed the drawer for this. Okay, so to make chloroform we need methane and chlorine. Chlorine was fairly easy, I electrolyzed rock salt. Methane, I think there's better ways to do this, but centrifuging wood is probably the simplest. Okay, there's our chloroform. And now we should be able to make tetrafluoroethylene. I've no idea if the amount we're making here is going to be enough for a whole LCR, but if not, this wasn't too bad, I can make some more. And now we need to polymerize the TFE to PTFE using some oxygen. Now I can grab the molten PTFE and pop it in a fluid solidifier. I'm making these sheets because they're needed for the quest, but obviously we'll need all sorts of things to make the LCR. Crap, I wasn't recording for the quest, but that's all the sheets I needed. So for this quest reward, I think I'm going to go for these stainless steel fluid cells because we're going to be doing a lot of fluid handling and more storage, more better. So the reason I was distracted and not recording is because I was thinking what we need to be able to make the LCR itself. So I will start working towards that next. Okay, so we also need a cupronickel coil for this, which we have a few here. And of course it's going to need to be powered, and we're going to need a bunch of hatches as well, so let me sort those out too. Alright then, let's see if we can build this. So I'll pop energy hatch here. Controller there. I don't know if that has to go in the middle, but I think that's one place it can go. The coil has to be touching it. And let's try input, input, input. Output. Oops. Output. I don't know if this needs an input bus. There's certainly no items involved, but it might need a circuit, so I will see how that works in a second. And I think the rest of this can be casing. Oh, we do need a maintenance hatch as well, which can go there. Okay, looks like it formed. Let's do maintenance. Okay, that is ready to rock. Now let's see if we can use it to make more PTFE. Alright, so it took me a while to figure out, but I now have this thing producing PTFE without very much intervention at all. And it's a little bit complicated, so I will see if I can walk you through it. It's also circular, so there's no good place to start either. I guess, actually oxygen's that comes at the end, so that's fine. So in this hatch, you can't really tell, it's just empty at the moment, but this is where the hydrofluoric acid would go in. And in this input bus, we've got carbon, and also we're supplying another program circuit, so we can run recipes at circuit 24 or circuit 1. And yeah, we have hydrogen coming into this input hatch from the electrolyzer that's behind that pump there. So the hydrogen mixes with the carbon, and that gets us the methane. The methane's actually output to this hatch, which is locked to methane, and immediately goes into this input hatch ready for the next reaction. The methane reacts with the hydrofluoric acid that would be in here, and the chlorine that's coming from this tank, also from this electrolyzer that's down here, and that tank is connected to another input hatch there. So those three things together make us our TFE, and hang on, not that one. Where is it? There we go. So the TFE comes out here, again, locked. It's really important that these are all locked because the circuits only give you sort of a range of things that could react together, so locking the outputs makes sure you only get the recipe that you want. And again, that goes straight into this, so this output hatch goes straight into this input hatch, and then the TFE is reacted with the oxygen to give us PTFE, and that outputs hydrochloric acid, which comes out here, goes into this tank, and this tank, these are item pipes, and they're cycling cells. So the cells of hydrochloric acid go into the electrolyzer. The electrolyzer electrolyzes to chlorine and hydrogen, and recycles the cells back round to here. And yeah, that's it. It could be more automated if I was to add the biotype processing and get hydrofluoric acid made, but that would need to be done separately at the moment, the way I have it at the moment. But yeah, it's sort of just put a few inputs in and go to hell out. It's great. I've been thinking about what to do next, and I've put together a little list, and I've decided I want to do none of these things. In fact, friends, it is time for the clean room. I have tried before, I have failed before. This is usually where I give up on the pack. But today's the day. We're going to do it. I'm pretty sure I can get all of this stuff together and build a clean room. Let's see how it goes. First thing I need is an HV mixer. And that's because this black steel is actually much easier to make when you can put all the separate parts together, but that can only be done at HV, so that's just a little shortcut I'm taking there. So the black steel dust is mixing up, and I've spotted a bit of a problem, which is even with oxygen, this is 50 seconds in an MV EBF, and I need 344 of them. And by my math, that's just under 5 hours. So, now obviously I've got an HV EBF, so it is going to be a bit quicker than that, but it's still long overdue that I got some more EBF going. And there we have it. 2 EBFs are better than 1. I did think about going quad, but actually, as it turns out, there's not a lot of space for all the hatches when they're wall sharing, so I've just gone with a dual, and this should cut down our cooking time quite a lot for this black steel. Let's get it going. Small snafu there while I realised I needed to reconfigure the conveyor belt, but that's fine, it's working now. Next up, we need 25 buckets of concrete, wet concrete, so hopefully this mixer can handle that. Yes, it can. is the clean room in all of its glory. I did try putting a trapdoor here, but for some reason there's a redstone pulse on this side of the block, which made a trapdoor useless and very annoying. Here's the inside. I've rigged a needs maintenance hatch to the underside of the controller, and that will light up this lamp if there is a problem. Maintenance issues in a clean room means they run at partial efficiency, and that will lead to voided items. We don't want that. I plan to batch process components to start with, so the lamp is fine for now. When we move into continuous operation, I'll see if I can rig an alarm and shut-off system. Here I have a single MV combustion Jenny connected to a 4A battery buffer and a 4A cable diode. Again, this is assuming I'll be running batches and will need to be reconfigured for continuous operation if we get to that. So the clean room was a bit of an unexpected turn for this episode and probably needs a bit of an explanation. Here in oil processing, everything is still ticking along and we still have about 500 buckets of heavy oil left before things need to be changed around again. But I noticed that when I have a lot of HV machines running, the diesel tank starts to empty very slowly. It's not a big problem, it just means I can't run a lot of machines for a long time. As long as I do things in batches and give the diesel time to build back up, it's fine. The bottleneck seems to be this LV single block distillery. It's not making sulfuric light fuel fast enough, which means light fuel isn't produced often enough, and the mixer spends most of its time waiting for light fuel, so it can't make diesel. The next natural progression for this process is to use a multi-block distillation tower, but that needs EV circuits, hence the need for a clean room. Alright, so that was a very exciting episode. I built 2 multi-blocks I've never played with before, and I have plans to build a third very soon. Up to now, I have been more or less retreading old ground, and I've been fairly sure what I was doing was going to work. From this point on, I'm going to need to spend more time figuring things out, and I'll try and explain my thought process and what I learned as I go. And of course, hopefully, there will be some hilarious mistakes to share too. I hope you're looking forward to the journey ahead as much as I am. Oh, and bearing in mind, I now officially have no idea what I'm doing, please do feel free to leave constructive tips or pointers in the comments, as I'm sure they'll be a great help. That's all for now, see you next time when I'll be attempting to get my hands on some EV circuits.